Malcolm Nance. And if you're seeing me wearing World War II era Army pink and greens, actual World War II era Army pink and greens, with a World War II era truck behind me, in a World War II era intelligence facility in which the Enigma codes were broken, then you're seeing me do Black Man Spy from Bletchley Park. I'm here today representing a tech sergeant who is part of the London Signals Intelligence Liaison Group, and a person of my rank and my color would have been a courier. And my job would have been to move classified documents from Bletchley Park to London. And so we're here at Bletchley Park, and I am here for I am a member of Bletchley Park. I'm a life member of Bletchley Park. I even have a code, a brick over on the code breakers wall. I know we have a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of politics going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Jacob and Waja really come and talk about what's happening geopolitically. And I'm going to be giving you a little tour of Bletchley Park at the exact same time, because when I come here, it's for business, right? All us old code breakers. Look at these guys. All right. There's people here are going to the nines, but I've got to work my way over to the meeting place, which is the Mansion House, which is where the Friends of are. Lots of actual cryptologists and people who are enthusiasts and family members of World War II code breakers. So this is what we're going to do today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys sort of a walking tour from time to time during the show. Here I am at the code breakers wall. This is a wall where the names of code breakers and their family members are kept. I and my late wife are on this wall, as we are code breakers, or started as I was a cryptologist, and you and your family can be put on this wall. So, but the crazy 1940s stuff that they have here is really off the charts. Uniforms, clothing, swing dancing. It's amazing. However, now I have to pause and talk politics. And what I'm going to do is let Jacob and Waja come out there before I take you on a tour of Hut 6 and we go look at Alan Turing's office and see. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. He has a teddy bear here, and I know its name. So, but first, I've got to go over to a private event. And Jacob and Waja, I'm going to be listening as usual when I do these trips. And you guys, we're going to talk about the supposed Iran deal. So with that, I think we have a Winston Churchill lookalike over here. That's sort of fun. But I don't know about you guys, but that this deal is setting fire to every piece of media out there. Oh, look, we have loads of people here. Look, take a look. We have a wing commander. Hello.
I'm here at the beginning of September.
Hello.
Funnily enough.
Have a chat with my thousands of followers.
Hello there. Hello. How you doing?
I was just telling you.
Have a word, Winston.
I'm an old cryptologist.
Yeah.
And so I just introducing my audience of my program, Black Man Spy, which is the name of the podcast in the States, to Bletchley Park. And are you a wing commander?
Group captain.
Group captain. Awesome. The looks are incredible. Is this your wife?
You're the Winston Churchill?
Yeah, Winston Churchill's here, y'all. So
Winston.
yeah.
Hey, Brandon. Talk to young guys, fella.
hi.
Hello, young man. How are you?
We're broadcasting back to the States. I run a
Really?
podcast called Black Man Spy,
Yeah.
and I'm a former Navy cryptologist,
Okay.
retired, and I'm here representing the Signals Intelligence Liaison Group in World War II. I would have been the courier. That's
Okay.
all I would have been. So
Nice to meet you, young man.
you look excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here, and I'm going to go over to the members meeting
And
here.
it's
Nice
not only
meeting
to
you
the
all.
Okay.
US, it's
Keep
worldwide.
buggering on. Keep buggering on.
It's worldwide.
Yes. Okay. Well, that was the fun start of the show. And like I said, I'm a courier. In fact, I couriered for a friend of mine 20 Cuban cigars. That's what was in the secure case I carried here. No codes, none of the day's decrypts for German submarines, which is what Black military police guys would have done. So, with that, let's go talk about what's going on in our world back in the States as we enter the famous Bletchley Park mansion here. And oh, there's all sorts of displays here. I'm not getting anything done. Guys, what the hell is going on with this deal? I mean, like, everyone's pulling out knives. Even Trump and Arachi were both demanding calm. Is that true? What's going on?
Well, everything is going on. Demands flying left and right, and a bit of drones here and there, and a bit of shooting in the Strait of Hormuz, etc., etc. So, yeah, and lots of ordnance flying, unfortunately, in South Lebanon as well. So, yeah.
You like it,
Let's be clear.
I saw
for
that there were like
Malcolm.
650 strikes in southern Lebanon.
Yeah, exactly. I've worked with a lot of cryptologists as well, because the Danish service is an all source service.
Mhm.
And man, some of them are smart. And, it's like, connecting with them, you really have to be special sometimes. But some of them,
Special,
man,
special like you go to school in a small.
off the charts. Regular guys like me was like, oh man, what's going on? It was a different
Yeah,
world.
special like you go to school in a small school bus.
Yeah.
Let's be honest and realistic. A memorandum of understanding is an agreement just to sit down and talk about another agreement.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so far, we're not even agreeing on that in the full terms. Iran says that Halas, the US is going to give us $330 billion in assets, and they're going to have to open the Strait of Hormuz and lift all the sanctions. And on the other hand, you have uh, 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 J.D.
And they
Vance
talk
coming
about
out.
all fronts as well. All fronts.
Yes, exactly. And then you have J.D. Vance coming out and goes, yes, Iran is going to hand all of its nuclear arsenal over, and they're going to hand in their nuclear enriched uranium. And the Iranians are like, we didn't even talk about that. So I don't feel like
Yeah.
this is even realistic. We're talking about something. And Netanyahu is just sitting there and laughing his ass off at the moment because he knows it's about to fall apart anytime soon.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how far they get. One guy that also came out with a statement, I think it's only an hour ago or 2 hours ago, is the Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif saying that a deal was to be expected in the next 24 hours, but
That's right.
it's very, very hard to say, and it's very hard to say what will be in that memorandum. And it's not a deal; it's a memorandum.
That's exactly.
Mhm.
People think
did
when they
J.D.
hear a
Vance
deal
actually
that
say
this,
that?
this is it. Hold on. What'd you say?
What
Did
is saying,
J.D.
Malcolm?
Vance actually say that the Iranians were going to turn over materials? Did he say that out loud?
Yes, let me pull it out.
No, that's unfortunate. You know
Yeah.
what? Sometimes I think that they are inching towards a deal, and then I think there are people trying to kill that deal dead as a doornail. Right?
Yeah.
It's just these people who are all about
Yeah.
it. Okay. I'm listening to you guys because that was an amazing statement.
Conversely, U.S. Vice President explicitly stated that Trump administration will provide zero economic relief or asset access until Iran fully complete its physical nuclear rollbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think he has a clue, because there won't be anything about the nuclear track in this memorandum. That the Iranians have said that'll be for the next phase, and I can't see that there will be anything. I think that's just talk. It's probably the usual propaganda they're trying to send out. So it's very hard to see whether it will stick. Why? Because we don't know at the end of the day what the real power brokers in Iran are going to say. We don't know what Mahidi will say. We don't know what Mohsen Rezai will say. We know what Mohsen Rezai said yesterday, and after all, he's the top advisor to Mustafa. So we don't know what these guys are going to say at the end of the day.
Well,
And
here's what I can tell you about what's going on in Tehran. There is currently ongoing power struggle between the Speaker of the House, the foreign ambassador,
Garibaf, Aragachi, yeah,
Galibaf,
yeah.
versus the IRGC. They're all one group that are
Mm.
like pushing for this memorandum of understanding. And
Yeah,
then you have the IRGC and the other members of the military and intelligence groups. They're saying that
yeah,
this is basically giving up and surrendering to the Americans, and that
yeah,
that they would want a more maximalist demand. So
yeah.
even inside Iran, there is a huge disagreement regarding who is going to take charge regarding this. And by the
Yeah.
end of the day, I think the call goes to the IRGT,
Mm,
whether the diplomats
That's
like it or not.
exactly. And that's why I say at the end of the day, it's Vahidi, it's Mohsen Rezai, it's Solgada, it's those guys with direct access to Mustafa. And yeah, let's see. Let's see. I think it's hard to imagine that they will even sign a memorandum as long as Israel is hammering away in South Lebanon. Obviously, Israel, what they're doing now is further south. It's up to Tyre. I haven't seen any reporting that it'd be north of Tyre. So it might be that the Israelis are trying to gauge out what the IRGC top guys are willing to accept, so Israel can keep doing the strikes in that southern zone. That could be it, but yeah, let's see.
Right, Jacob, I want to ask you about this. Right before the uh, memorandum of understanding and before JD Vance and everyone was heading to Karachi, I think that no, they're not heading to Karachi. They're heading to Switzerland, aren't they? Uh,
That was the reporting, yeah. Before they
yeah.
weren't heading to Switzerland anymore.
Yeah. Regardless, Iran shot 3 waves of Shahed drones against vessels in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah,
3 waves. That was yesterday. That
yeah.
was during the talks about having peace talks.
Yeah.
Is this is this is this the IRGC attempt at stalling the talks, or is this the IRGC actually attacking ships that are trying to pass the strait?
Yeah, or is it just to say, we want the last words because the US has been striking us, so we are approaching a deal, but we want the final the final activity. But it's hard to say what it is because at the end of the day, it's these real hardliners that are going to call the shots, and I would say they are unlikely
Hey,
to budge much.
hey, Jake. If we could
Yeah.
have a little pause in the politics, we're going to give the viewers an idea of some of the stuff that's here. And as you guys know, I am a student of the Special Operations Executive, the OSS, and World War II. And we have a gentleman here who's going to show us a Mark 7 suitcase radio and all the cool things associated with it, right? Including that silk encryption decryption list there, right?
I have two.
Oh, you have two. That's
So this one was used by the Jedburghs.
as Jedburghs, which are the American, right, OSS officers.
A little bit different because what you've got there is you've got your command, and then also what you've got there is
Right.
there's a lot to learn on it.
Uh-huh.
Phrases that you would then use,
Right.
and then just use the coordinates.
Okay. And the suitcase radio is in an actual suitcase. This is a Morse code transmitter with a key paddle, headsets, different frequency modules, right?
So this is what happened.
Yeah.
Crystals.
Yeah, there's your crystals. Y'all get in history whether you want it or not. You can't watch a program called Black Man Spy and not get some history of World War II in there. Uh-huh. And you put your crystal in, and then
Then we tune that out by turning it on.
I have a bicycle generator crank at home, and somebody cranks it, gives you juice.
So this works 2 ways.
Right. Right. So you just send your messages 5-letter groups, right?
Malcolm, you need to repeat what the gentleman is saying because his
okay.
his
Well,
voice is
you need to
not
speak
through.
up a bit. Anyway,
Bob McFarlane.
right.
Bob McFarlane, Yugoslavia, with the former president's team.
Right.
He was a 19-year-old radio operator sent over there, and he left.
And this is his Mark 7? Yeah. Yeah.
Tell him that basically he was next to the agent.
Oh, I see. He couldn't say anything about his secret radio business during the war. Yeah, I know how to do Morse code. I learned it somewhere.
So eventually, if he was allowed to tell his story about being an agent,
Yeah.
he said, "Yes, I was a radio operator."
Yeah.
Yes, I cannot believe that. So Bob was invited to do various talks about his time as a
Mhm. So it's a replica, yeah. Because I've seen big Mark 3s for sale, you know? Yeah.
Bob he helped send.
Malcolm, it
Right.
might be
Yeah.
interesting for you, but we can't hear what's going on.
Okay.
So-
Well, but
so
they're saying they
it-
can't hear
it-
very
it-
well. So anyway, I will put you all back onto Okay, sorry guys. I was just showing you a little World War II history. There's all sorts of stuff here.
Yeah, that's
Explosives,
fantastic.
detonators,
That's fantastic.
hand
Yeah.
grenades, all the cool things, other radios. So go ahead and back to politics, and I will
And-
join you at the towards the end of the show.
Yeah, and they dropped a lot of that stuff down for the resistance in, not least in Denmark. So yeah. Anyway, off we go, Waji. Where were we? Yeah, we were talking. For me, you
About
know,
the drones.
bottom line is, yeah, the drones. It had to say what it was. Obviously, the Iranians want to show still that there is no MOU, so they will keep threatening the strait. They don't want an exodus before they get what they want. So that's also a point, that will play into it. That's for sure.
What
do
do
you
you
think?
make of? What do you make of? Well, what I think is that the IRGC is having the final call. They are showing that, and they have expressed that they are very skeptical of this memorandum of understanding. Even the Iranian diplomats are skeptical of their memorandum of understanding. And when you have this type of mistrust, um, all you want is the other side to prove to you that you can trust them. Like I said the
Yeah.
other day, Iran wants to be treated like the cute girlfriend. They want you to take her out to dinner. They want you to buy her some flowers. They want her to get you some chocolate. Apologize for the way you've been treating her, and promise her that you're gonna do better, and do some nice gestures. And meanwhile, the U.S. is just like, no, you gotta give me what you got first in that closet.
I've never heard the IRGC top guns, described in such a positive manner. I'm like, what? What are we talking
I'm
about? The
just
same guys I've chased since early 2000.
it's not about a positive matter. Don't take me wrong. The IRGC is a pissed off girlfriend out there, but or pissed off whatever it is. But
Yeah.
the expectation is that the IRGC has to trust the U.S. word when the U.S. has shown
And they
over and
don't.
over again that their word is not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. And what our listeners should also understand, that the Revolutionary Guards, when you say that in Farsi, it means the guardians of the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So they see themselves, and that's why they pull the strings at the end of the day, because this is a matter of the survival of the revolution. So they are up there. They're the ones making the calls. It's not Galibaf. It's not the president. It's not the foreign minister. It doesn't matter much. They can do a lot of wishful thinking and interpretation, etc., etc. But it's the guardians of the revolution that will make the call. And
You're
these
absolutely
guys
correct.
are super vicious, and they are also really, really, they don't have any trust. They don't have any confidence in who's at the opposite side. So that's why, people, you can have a lot of people saying, now it will be settled, etc., etc. But they want to hold on to their bargaining chips, and they don't trust Donald Trump. He has attacked them twice while negotiations were ongoing in Geneva. So at the end of the day, they will play a very hard game.
The IRGC is not your regular military organization, because Iran does have a military that is separate
Mm.
than the IRGC. And when the Islamic Revolution started in Iran, there was a lot of mistrust and a lot of fear from the military infrastructure that the revolution, because it was a revolution, if you think about it, it was a revolution to
Mm,
throw away the
was.
previous Shah. So it was to protect that revolution from ever falling again. They created the IRGC. So the whole point of the IRGC is actually to prevent the fall of the Islamic Revolution at any
The
cost.
Guardians. The
They are
Guardians.
the guardian. Yes.
Mhm.
So you have to understand why they exist to begin with, to understand how
Mm.
they operate. You have to understand their doctrine to understand how you fight your enemy, or how you meet them, or how you talk to them. So when you have an organization that's solely so, like, for example, when I'm looking at Saudi Arabia, there is the rest of the military that protects the country, and then there is the royal guard. Their main purpose and their only purpose is to protect the royal family. They're way more funded, they're way more trained, they're way more they have all the latest
Motivated.
technology, so way more motivated than the military. So
Yeah.
they are there to protect the royal family, and this is there to protect the revolution.
Yeah.
It was just
And
to draw
it's
some
no
comparison.
way like Saddam Hussein's special Republican Guard or whatever it was called. That was nothing in the grand scheme of things. These guys are literally willing to die for the cause. And we have to understand that, they actually think about Mahdi.
Mahdi.
They want to get one step closer to the savior. So
Al
that's
Mahdi, for the people who don't know who Al Mahdi is, Al Mahdi is a descendant of the Prophet who will appear at the end of the world time to guide the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim nation, not nation of Islam, the Muslim world, right? To
yeah,
a point where the Messiah, Al Masih, would come down, which is Jesus. What we believe Jesus is, will come back, just like Christians will believe that Jesus is gonna come back, and
yeah.
that this person is the person that's gonna bring back Jesus.
Yeah.
So this is why this is how important the revolution is for the Iranian people.
Oh, at least 10 million, 15 million, 20 million that believe in all this stuff. So that's the challenge,
I was
and that is why we have to be very careful not to jump to conclusions, because at the end of the day they have lost they have lost a supreme leader, a spiritual leader, and they don't want to lose another one. That's basically their job. So that is why funny things could happen.
I wanted to touch regarding Lebanon.
Yeah.
Lebanon keeps being a hot potato regarding this whole peace process.
Yeah.
Anytime the peace process might go forward, Netanyahu and the far right government choose to either expand into Lebanese territory or conduct more strikes into Lebanon, all the way inside Beirut. When we see this type of constant escalation, is this the Israeli way of not giving a fuck at all, in addition to fucking up Trump's peace process? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I mean, the Israelis, the Israeli government, let's say, put it like that, want to keep going, and they also want to keep going on Iran, and they don't really care about the consequences, and they think that's the right way to go. Still, that's what evidence tells us, I think. And when I see posts from government supporters from Israel. There are also some Danish people of that orientation. It's like we just need to do scorched earth in Lebanon. We will crush Hezbollah. So all of South Lebanon is Hezbollah in their interpretation. And I think that's what we are seeing, and it's really mad. And when that will come to the fore, and I don't know, but it's difficult to see that the IRGC regime will accept it. I think, as I said before, the strikes today have been very forceful and concerning, but have not gone so far north, and that could be the Israelis trying to establish a new understanding, accommodation with the Iranian regime, and see if they will accept that. Like the other last weekend when they attacked Israel because of Israeli bombings of Dahir. Obviously, you have Ben Gvir stating that Dahir should be leveled and raised, but he's the guy that will say that. But that has traction with these lunatics, unfortunately.
This only increases the conspiracy theories that Arabs have had on the greater Israel. Like,
yeah, and all the stuff that our the main bandits of the IRGC have been arguing for years. So it plays into their propaganda. And all of us who've been saying, well, it's the IRGC that's the main culprit, and if we can just beat all the terrorist groups, the so-called resistance groups, it'll get better. But when Israel does what they're doing, both in Gaza, in the West Bank, and now also in Lebanon and in South Syria, we shouldn't forget. Then they play right into these radical Islamist arguments.
this is what I say. This is what I will say, because I don't want this to come out as anti-Israel or anything. I call on the Israeli people to call on their government to end this crazy, heinous acts. The fact of the matter is, the rest of the world can protest the Israeli government as much as they want. But all we do is we put some sort of campaign pressure from the outside. But who really has an actual way of making change in regard to this war? It is the Israeli people. So I call on the Israeli people to go out and demand an end to this heinous acts against humanity.
It's very important to understand, of course, Israel needs protection against Hezbollah, against Iran, against Islamist radicals. Of course they do. But this is not the way. And, I attacked a guy on social media because he was saying, they just deserve it. We'll go back and mow the lawn and all that. And I said, well, you sound like Putin. It's scorched earth tactics, and at the end of the day, it will be a security problem for Israel. This is not the way you can secure the state of Israel. And that's my preoccupation. And it's been throughout my professional career also to contribute to stability around the state of Israel. But this is not the way. It's completely false. And it's giving in to radical Jewish leaders, settler groups that think they can just do illegal stuff in the West Bank, and it is illegal, for heaven's sakes. And then there's talk about trading, trading settlements with XYZ. You can't fucking trade anything that's illegal. It's like
Basically,
buying from a thief. You can't.
basically, help me help you advocate for your right to exist among the world states. When I've spoken on Israel 24 at least 14 times, I've been invited to Israel. I just haven't gone there, especially after the October attack. The reality is, the reality is that when it comes to it, I can't advocate for you as a state when you are allowing all these actions to happen. There is extremist far right that are trying to flip the democracy that they have and turn it into a religious theocracy. This is against my principles of human rights and my principles of democracy, period. Israelis
Sure.
themselves that are coming out and saying that there is corruption inside Israel are being oppressed. So, if there is anyone that could do something about it, it's the Israelis. It's the Israelis. Israelis need to come out and protest because the Israeli government is not going to listen to the Palestinians. They're not going to listen to Ajit. But you want me to advocate for the Abrahamic Accord? Sure, I will advocate for the Abrahamic Accord. Could you show me some action that I can use to advocate on behalf of the Abrahamic Accord?
And the Israeli government now are living in a folly. They're living in a foolish belief that just crushing Hezbollah or whatever, the civilians in South Lebanon and on the West Bank will mean that the Gulf Arabs, etc., will expand the Abraham Accords. But the Abraham Accords, they're driving the Gulf states away from them with what they're doing at the moment. And interesting enough, yesterday, because that's my question for you, Waji, we saw reporting by Reuters that had been speaking to 4 separate sources that the UAE is transferring billions of dollars to Iran to settle the matter.
Yes.
So, they are, it's protection money, like in a mafia scheme where the mobster goes out and demands protection money. And, we've seen how the UAE hasn't been attacked this week. So I know the UAE government has denied it. But again, there are some signs that they want this accommodation, right?
They have, of course, they're gonna deny it. They denied Netanyahu coming to meet he came to the UAE to meet with MBZ, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. The reality is that the UAE were agreed to release $10 billion worth of Iranian assets back to the Iranians in order to not get attacked. UAE moved from one of the most hawkish states to becoming one of the most states asking for the end of this war. Yes.
The dumbest.
And the reason for that is because they're a realistic government. They have a realistic government that is dependent on few things that have all been canceled out because of this war. They're dependent on oil sales. They're
Yeah.
dependent on tourism. They're dependent on the security that they have provided, right?
Yeah.
The security that they have provided for rich people to come and invest in their country. If that's gone, then all of the millionaires that decided to come and buy a property in the middle of the desert are like, why am I even here? I'm gonna just hang out in Bangkok, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to somewhere that's much, much better for me than in the middle of a war zone. And all of a sudden, all the investments, all the companies, you're the center of the traffic, the
Yeah.
airplanes being shut down. That's all bad for
And
business.
and now they see that the U.S. and Israel are liabilities.
Yes.
They're liabilities. They won't protect them. They won't create stability, and that's why they do what they do. And I think there's been this talk about Kuwait, no, not Kuwait, Qatar, reaching out also to Iran, and we know all the rapprochement that has been between Qatar and Iran for many years. And as we've talked about, they've not been struck either these last couple of weeks. So I think it sends a message to the rest of the Gulf that if you want to be left alone, you better have your channels open to Tehran and reach accommodation with Tehran.
The UAE also found out that Israel might be a good resource, but they're not necessarily a great ally because like they're so happy and they do have amazing diplomatic relations at the moment. But anytime UAE asks for Israeli help, the Israelis come out and humiliate them on their own media.
Yeah,
And that's just not good for business. That's just not good for
no,
business for the diplomatic relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. When UAE asked for Israel to bring the dome batteries and operate under secrecy, and someone inside the Mossad decides to leak all that information for no purpose so they can make an extra buck here and there for a story, what you end up is you have a country that has been shamed by the rest of the Arab world for its relations with Israel, and for the current and for a war that Israel is being blamed for at the moment. Now, like they're being like, look, we told you how fucked up UAE is. They're working with the Israelis in the middle of this war. And that's
yeah,
just not good for them. That's just not good between the Arab world or from the Iranians.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I think that's where we're at, and yeah, it also plays into all this stuff about a MOU, and even if there is an MOU signed tomorrow, as the Pakistani Prime Minister has said, there would be. It's by no means guaranteed. It's by no means certain that there will be an agreement. It's by no means certain there will be a deal that also encompasses the nuclear program. And I was just quizzed by a Danish journalist today because he was rightly talking about the JCPOA and what was in the JCPOA, which is super. JCPOA, the old nuclear deal that Trump
Uh-huh.
broke away
That's
from
right.
during his first term. And he was. It's really important to understand, the main clauses in there to see what will happen now. But he was also saying, we'll see whether it can be as good as the JCPOA. But I said to him, well, mate, it can't. Why? Because aside from what is stipulated in the JCPOA, even if we reverse to that, which I don't think Trump will. But the Iranians have learned a lot. Their research is so much better now. Why? Because Trump broke away, and now they've enriched first up to 20%, from 3.67% to 20% is that threshold that's the most hard to make, and teaches the most scientifically. And then from 20% to 60%. So regardless of what comes out of this, the breakout time for a nuke will be reduced significantly because the Iranian scientists are smarter now. And you can assassinate as
Not
many nuclear scientists in Tehran as you want. You're not going to get to the bottom of it through that approach.
what Jacob is trying to say is that the Iranians currently have the know-how, the resources, the materials, and the connections to make a nuclear bomb whenever they want to. Well, with with a
What I
certain
said was,
amount of time.
the know-how. The know-how is actually the most important factor, because that is the factor you can't dial back. You can dial, the 60%, you can dilute it, you can, you can imagine agreements on that. And you can also imagine agreements to reduce the enrichment levels to 3.67 like they were before. I'm certain the Iranian regime wants, really, really significant economic benefits to accept it. But what you cannot do, you cannot erase the know-how. You cannot erase what they have learned through that whole enrichment process from 3.67 first to 20%, then to 60%, because that is what their scientists have got now. And that makes them more dangerous, unfortunately.
I want to add another point to your conversation with this gentleman. So the whole thing was whether Iran will be at a better place than the JCPOA than now, right? Like Iran will find themselves now at a better position than what they found themselves during the Obama administration.
Yeah.
And that is correct. Like if I would say, when you come to any negotiation, anyone who holds the cards, anyone that has the upper hand at a situation, can ask for more. That's why when you are in the middle of a flea market and you're looking at a piece of something that you're really interested in, if you're
Or a
all of a sudden
bazaar.
very excited, a bazaar, all of a sudden you're very excited about it, the salesperson goes from $5 to $100. You're like, oh my God, I love this. And the salesperson, $100, baby. This is $100. But when
Yeah.
you come to a sales market and you already know the product and you act calmly and you hold your cards back and you play it strategically, you end up having the upper hand. Iran doesn't have the strongest military, doesn't have the strongest army, doesn't have the best economy. All it has is a strategic control of a waterway that the whole world is dependent on. And that's all they need to control. Hold power and control the Strait of Hormuz. That alone puts Iran at a way more advantaged position in a negotiation when they were talking to Obama versus when they're talking to the Donald Trump administration. That just puts them at an advantage, because whatever they don't like to hear by the Trump administration, all they have to do is wait, pour another cup of tea,
Push.
and wait.
Yeah. Now, Wati, should we go to questions?
Question. Yes.
I picked up a question here. Of course, I just do it on my cell phone. So I picked up a question here. It says, Jacob, do you believe that during the JCPOA times that the Iranians were enriching to higher standards than what was agreed upon? I can answer that quite clearly with a no, because the inspection regime by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, worked. They had the monitoring mechanisms. It's not to say that the Iranian regime wasn't fuddling with all other techniques and things that could be used for weaponization in any event, etc., because they were playing around with that. But in terms of the enrichment, 3.67%, there is no evidence whatsoever that that threshold was broken. And the IAEA says our inspection regimes worked, and our inspectors had satisfactory, satisfactory access to the Iranian production facilities. So there's no basis for saying that. Trump will
Let's see if
claim it,
there's
of
any
course,
other
but
questions.
it's bullshit. There's no reality in it. I'm just trying to scroll through. Are you doing the same, Waji?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions and a lot of comments in
Okay,
this look.
pop, pop, pop a question. Do other
What
countries have the right to monitor the U.S. nuclear program the way Iran's nuclear program was watched during the JCPOA? And no, because you have the nuclear regime, the nuclear countries, and you have the non-proliferation treaties, etc., which have guarded that whole thing. Then you have had a couple of countries that have succeeded in breaking out, like the North Koreans. That happened when I was on the UN Security Council. I can talk a lot about that, and but I won't do that today. And then you have Iran that was approaching, but there's no evidence whatsoever that the Iranians were pursuing a weapon per se. They were pursuing capabilities, the different components, but there is no evidence of attempts at weaponization, regardless of what Trump says. None whatsoever. It also said in the JCPOA that Trump exited that Iran would not progress towards developing nuclear weapons. So if Trump and J.D. Vance touch that as a big success, if they get the new Iranian regime to sign up to the same, it was all in the JCPOA anyway. And Waji, you'll also say that Ayatollah Khamenei, the now deceased, the now slain leader, had issued a fatwa against nuclear weapons.
They could always issue a fatwa and change the fatwa. The fatwa could always be changed by the supreme leader whenever they want. But being prepared to make a nuclear weapon is different than using a nuclear weapon. The whole point of Iran wanting to achieve a nuclear weapon status is to be respected like North Korea. That's if I'm being honest. They can lie about their interest about reaching a nuclear weapon status. They're at 60%. They can, if they want, they can reach 90% and achieve about 9 to 10 nuclear weapons. But the whole point is, even if they got one nuclear weapon, that's not enough. Because if they test that one nuclear weapon and Israel, for example, decides to respond, the whole point of a mutual assured destruction wouldn't even work. The game theory is not there. Iran needs to have multiple nuclear heads at a time in order, and then test one and let the world know that they have multiple nuclear heads at a time before they test it safely before anyone attacks it. So they can ensure that they won't be attacked by any other country that thinks that Iran will attack them first. The point of mutual assured destruction is to stop a nuclear war from happening instead of increasing the chance of a nuclear war from happening. if one country has the advantage of hitting another country first, that whole equation breaks.
Yeah. There's a question here. If we disrupt Iran's access to these shipments, how much would that degrade their combat capability? Which shipments? I don't really get which shipments is meant.
I don't know about the shipments, but I have a question to you
Yeah.
that I've been getting. Recently, there was an article saying that there is plenty of evidence that the Mossad has not only been spying on U.S. officials, but they have been blackmailing U.S. politicians to be more pro-Israel or follow Israeli orders. And I've also been hearing a former CIA officer who was talking about how Israel, when he was still in the CIA, tried to recruit him. What is the Israeli espionage like with its allies? And did they try to recruit fellow, European spies into their network? I'm genuinely curious because this is just a new story that's been coming out.
Yeah, yeah. Israel has always been threatened has lived in a very intense threat environment. And like that, the intelligence agencies have always had a very crucial status for the survival of the state of Israel. So they've also gone to greater lengths, I think, than most intelligence agencies in democracies would do. Also, with regard to being, more offensive towards allies and partners than others would be. So I think these stories that surfaced in the U.S. press, was it the New York Times?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think it was New York Times. I can imagine also because it's a problem for Israel that what has happened with Gaza and what we've been talking about with the West Bank and Lebanon. So they lose popularity that way, and these polls that have been in the U.S. where for the first time a majority of the U.S. population sees Israel as a problem for the stability in the region. That is troublesome for Israel. And I can imagine that a PM like Netanyahu would order more offensive operations in the U.S. To try to counter that. But at the end of the day, it makes matters worse. It's because they use these scorched earth politics and tactics, and they don't respect international law and international agreements around the Palestinians, and now also with Lebanon and Syria. So it will be a problem for the state of Israel. So that is very unfortunate.
Again, I say this to the Israeli people. The world was standing with Israel for the longest time until the cell phone technology and social media became prevalent, especially after the October attack. I remember, when I was growing up, I lived the not Islamic, the Palestinian trauma through Al Jazeera when I was a child. Like I was listening to the horrific stories. I was watching the Al Jazeera was hardly censoring any of the Israeli violence. Now, especially after the Israeli attack, I was talking to white Americans who's never been to the Middle East, and they're experiencing the trauma through Facebook, through Instagram, through Snapchat, through TikTok, and they're waking up in the middle of the night with nightmares thinking about the people of Gaza. That's the reality. If I'm talking to my friends, I don't do that anymore because I know how it changed me as a person, as a child. I don't do as much anymore. But these Americans don't need to be tuned in. These American European kids are not necessarily from there. They don't have family there, but because of social media, because they are human kids that have been taught ethics and a lot of humanitarian issues, they are standing up and saying enough is enough. I'm seeing what's right. I'm seeing what's wrong. I can be the judge for myself. I don't need a country to tell me what's right and what's wrong. And that's the reality that's happening. You, for the first time, you're having a large Jewish American population that is coming out and saying, I'm against Israel. That's not me. That's just the Jewish American population. Well, that tells you something. Israelis need to stop whatever they're doing if they want the rest of the world to support them. That's the answer
Yeah.
for the Israelis.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, Wati, we're up to the top of the hour. Do you know, is Malcolm coming back on or isn't he? Anyway, we can wrap it up
How do you say
right here.
Africa or whatever the Africa, the whatever translation he does. Oh, look at that.
Cryptologist.
Freshly
The
shaved in a
cryptologist.
the cryptologist, yes, that word. We can't hear you. Mute and unmute.
It's the United Airlines stewardess once again. She snuck into the conference at Bletchley Park.
You gotta unmute.
You're on mute, Malcolm.
You are muted. Oh my God.
Okay.
I don't know what he's saying, but I
What-
can't even read those lips at the moment.
Uh,
Okie dokie.
anyway,
He's saying bye. He's saying bye.
yeah.
Bye.
Anyway, go follow Malcolm, go follow YG, go follow myself. Push the Chiron up on the top, and up we pop,
Yeah.
and you can just subscribe to all our channels. What else do we need to say? We didn't do the big mug thing. This is the
Listen.
mug for my son's boyhood soccer team. And I played when I was an oldie for those as well. I haven't played for a few years. It will hurt my body completely if I play a game. But anyway, it's a soccer mug.
That's pretty cool, actually. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. We just want to let you know
Yeah.
we do depend on your support fully to do this work. So if you're not a paid subscriber and you can afford it, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. It helps pays for our independent work and give you the latest updates and analysis regarding the war and peace talks regarding what's happening. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And if you are on YouTube, click that bell icon so you can receive the latest notifications. And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you.